After many years of using Premiere Pro, I finally decided to make the switch to DaVinci Resolve. And I think you should consider it too. Now, I'm going to do a full proper breakdown of a lot of reasons why you probably should make the switch, and maybe even shouldn't make the switch to Resolve. But this video right here is just going to be my first impressions as a long-time Adobe and Premiere Pro user. If you don't already know me, I'm Alex Perry, a filmmaker, editor, and content creator from Toronto, Canada. I've been using Premiere Pro for over 10 years now, so I'm definitely very comfortable with it, but I'm just starting to get quite fed up. So join me on this quick journey as I give you my first impressions of DaVinci Resolve. So I'm just gonna get my laptop over here. All right, there we go. I'm all set up. So right away, I've noticed the interface seems a bit more complicated than Premiere Pro, and it doesn't really seem customizable. You can seemingly turn different sections or windows on and off for different controls, but you can't really drag the different windows and sections around or lay them out the way you want to. So I think that gives Premiere actually the edge here, so point to Premiere there. But after playing around with DaVinci here for a bit, I actually kind of figured it out quite quickly, and it really didn't seem all that complicated after all. Now jumping over to editing in the timeline, it's actually very similar to that of Premiere. You can do your basic cuts, drag video and audio clips around, and they're actually stacked in the same way as they are in Premiere. So no point goes to any program here because they're essentially the same thing. But one of the best things I've noticed that's actually set up like this by default in DaVinci is the ability to ripple delete by just clicking the delete key on your keyboard. Unless I've done something wrong in Premiere, mine's not set up that way by default, so it just doesn't have that behavior. So DaVinci gets a point for that one. Yeah, I guess we're doing the whole point tallying system here now. I didn't set out to do that when I started this video, but you know what? We're doing it now. All right, going on over to the color grading tab. Not gonna lie, this part scared the out of me. Coming from Premiere's color grading setup and tools, DaVinci's is just like, whoa, what the f? But again, staying calm and taking a bit of time to learn what everything here is, what it does, how it works, it actually makes quite a bit of sense when you realize what it all does and how it all works. So I'm actually very quickly starting to love the screen over here in the setup, and simple color grading is becoming much easier for me. So a point goes to DaVinci here for its much more extensive tools, but also a point to Premiere for having a much more simple setup and an easier learning curve. All right, so that's gonna take me down to achieving the film look. Of course, if you know me or if you've seen any of my videos before, you'll notice that I love trying to achieve the film-like look on all my videos. And it's not always easy doing that in a program like Premiere. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I noticed all of this is kind of built into DaVinci. So built right in are tools for adding customizable film grain, blooming, and halation, which in my opinion are the three easiest ways to achieve that film-like look. Yeah, it's built right in here. Like, I was kind of mind blown by that too. Like it's a lot of work in Premiere to get that whole look going. I always had to drag a film grain video clip on top of my footage. So something like a 4K resolution film grain clip that I had to change the blend mode to look good on there. And they're always like, you know, relatively short. So you have to just like duplicate that a million times over the course of like the length of your whole project. And that just kind of bogs down your whole project. It makes it lag. There's no control of it, so you can't change the grain size, how it looks. So you have to play around with different film grain clips if you want to have a different look. And that's just for film grain. If you want to do the halation and blooming, you probably most likely have to use After Effects if you want it to look good. So again, with DaVinci, all this is built right in and they're kind of simple effects. So it looks great, doesn't really affect performance all that much. So huge point to DaVinci for that. Or maybe even like 3 points. All right, next we're going to talk about the built-in effects and tools that DaVinci has. Obviously, Premiere has a lot of built-in effects as well. I'm not going to lie and say they don't, even though you do have to go on over to After Effects to do a lot more of the extensive or, you know, crazier effects. But there's still a lot built into Premiere, but I do find putting a lot of those effects on, and especially if you want to compound them, so you're adding multiple effects at once on a clip, that really bogs things down, slows it down, and just really affects the performance of your videos. And yes, that still does happen in DaVinci too. Like if I add too many effects here and I'm trying to play things back, it'll still slow down and lag in my timeline here as I'm playing it back. But for the most part, I do get better performance with DaVinci here, and there are other major tools or features built right into DaVinci that are literally separate programs for Premiere. So you want to do effects or audio editing in Premiere, most of the time you gotta jump on over into After Effects or Audition. But in DaVinci, at the bottom of the screen here, you'll notice they have a section for motion and VFX, which is called Fusion, and they also have an audio editing section called Fairlight. So that's pretty much everything you'll ever need, all right in DaVinci. So that's a huge point for DaVinci. Oh, and DaVinci's gonna get another bonus point right here for having amazing, fantastic built-in noise reduction. I've tried to recover, let's call them problem videos in the past in Premiere, and I didn't really have much success. But in DaVinci, it's like a night and day difference. I can't believe how much DaVinci's noise reduction just completely blows Premiere's out of the water. Like, just look at this comparison over here. So yeah, DaVinci definitely gets a bonus point there. All right, so finally, we're gonna talk about exporting your videos. Now, exporting is usually a pretty straightforward process in Premiere, and seemingly in DaVinci, it's pretty much the exact same thing. So I guess the biggest difference is there's a nice little button or tab at the bottom of the screen here that's called Deliver, so that opens up its own page or screen with all your export settings neatly laid out and saving presets for your different export use cases like 4K for YouTube, Instagram Reels. You get the point. It's just as simple and as easy as in Premiere. So no point goes to either program there because they're pretty much the same thing. But, and this is a huge but, this is something that I shouldn't even have to be bringing up in this day and age. This is something that should just work this way, like in every editing program. But when I export my videos from DaVinci, they look exactly as they do when I'm editing as an exported file. Now you might be thinking, what are you talking about? If you've edited videos before, and especially in Premiere, you probably would have noticed a huge gamma shift in your video. So your video might look really washed out and flat, but looked fantastic when you were editing. So Adobe does offer a compensation LUT that you have to apply to your footage in Premiere to have it export with the proper look, if you want to call it that. But you know how many times I put that on my footage and it still doesn't look exactly the way I want to? So that drives me nuts that it's not just standardized. But in DaVinci, you just export and you're good to go. There's absolutely no gamma shift. Thank you, DaVinci. So yeah, that's gonna be a huge bonus for DaVinci here. I'm gonna say maybe 5 points. So let's do a recap of all of this because that pretty much wraps up my first impressions here. So it looks like Premiere got a point for the interface and its customizability, and a point for having a simple color grading workflow. So 2 points to Slytherin. And it looks like DaVinci got points for pretty much everything else. I've made little notes here. So that's 1 point for default keyboard ripple delete, 1 point for extensive tools for color grading, then 3 points for built-in effects to achieve a film-like look. Then there's going to be 1 more point for motion VFX and audio editing built right into the program. 1 point for fantastic noise reduction, and 5 points for having no gamma shift on export. So that's a whopping 12 points to Gryffindor. So I hope you've enjoyed going on this journey with me as I told you my first impressions of using DaVinci Resolve as a longtime Adobe and Premiere user. And hopefully it'll help you make a decision on if you actually want to spend the time to check it out and learn DaVinci for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you out. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also you can follow me over on Instagram at AlexSPerry to stay tuned for more. There's lots more coming your way, so stay tuned. And until next time, ciao for now.